So maybe under a new business, if you could give that direction to staff.
Okay, then we have a motion that items 5.1.1 to 5.113 is set out on the consent agenda for the May 6, 2025 regular meeting of council be received for information, and that the minutes of April 22nd, 2025 regular council meeting be adopted. Moved by Andrew, second by Amanda. All in favor? Carried. Okay, now we're down to presentations. We do have a public presentation tonight, and with us we have Don DeYoung from Trident Group Limited and Montana Wilson from Grit Engineering. Before we have them come to the table, I just want to say this is an information meeting only. There is no application in front of council at all. It's just to bring information to council so we can see what their intent is. So it's not a public meeting. Questions can be asked by council members and no one else tonight. So with that, I'll turn it over to Montana and Dawn, and welcome to Perth East. You can have a seat there in the chairs and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mayor Eckes and members of council. Appreciate you allowing us to come before you tonight. And forgive my use of phone, as the iPad has died, my phone is my next tool. So we want to come before you and really, I guess, orient council a little bit with some discussion with staff over the last number of months and several discussions with the county, and through process we come to you with Linda and Jerry Nechtel's property to the east side of Shakespeare as a development vision that we're quite excited by, providing we can work and complement what we need to do through the process. So I do recognize that we've gone through a recent OP, and in that scenario, we were told to bring forward an application on our own merits, and we've done quite a bit of work. And without all the pages printed, we have substantiation from a number of team members and experts in MDS, geotech, traffic, engineering, supporting what's the word, absorption economics, and we've had quite a fair bit of consultation with our friends at the MTO, and that's been the biggest discussion that we've been with as an important item here to work through. But I share that in brief because we obviously have to be before council, and it's important that council recognizes some of the aspects. And what we see on the screen tonight is a portion of a vision of development that we're looking to complement for the area, to kind of show to council that we're with something that has merit. And I think what we're recognizing and listening to, especially with your great school there, is that you have capacity in school. We have facilities that can complement development with services. We have some other amenities that we can bring to the community, where to the east at some point there's a commercial vision there, and we're wanting to kind of introduce this, have it be heard and recognized, and answer questions that you may have. Now, obviously, we're going to be coming forward with OPA, zoning and full draft plan factors. And for this, we're with Parkspace. We've, as stated, had early engagement with the MTO, and we've done very involved engineering work, and that's where Montana's team and that have been instrumental to have us understand several factors for the community that I think now that we have a much better handle on, with some of the collaboration that we've had with some of the engineers in the municipal zone for consultation, and Montana's team. So we have recognized that there are several ways to complement what's there for servicing, and ways that we need to add to it at some point in the future. and we respect in this community vision that we be, very much involved with making that happen. It wouldn't be something we would be expected to have on a free dime or given to us. We're looking to make, I think, something that could be a contribution to the community and give benefit to other people that are already there. So at a high level of introduction, I wanted to say that I know with Montana's work with engineering, we are with several factors that we're conscious of, and with our CAOs, or your CAO, excuse me, help here, Mr. Givens, we know we have more discussion that's needed. But we want to come forward. There is a real need in the province these days for housing, and I know that in the scope and the right vision, we can really do something that's attractive for the community. So with that, in my short introduction, I reach out for questions.
Okay, thank you. Questions of the presenter? Andrew?
Is that it, really? I was expecting more.
Well, and thank you, Andrew.
That's fine.
Councillor McAlpine. We're trying to be brief here because we want to listen as well. And we can try and give you more understanding if there's something that's helpful, but I think it's very important that we listen to anything that you may have as insight to help us through the process, is what I'll say.
Well, that's fine. Thanks. I just, the letter is very well put together, and the sewage report, there's been some public comment through social media on that. So that's going to be something, obviously this is just the tip of the iceberg. So now we're looking at the hectares calculation is about 88, 90 acres. Is that about correct, the total project size?
The land area is that, but we're not with the gravity feed for all of that land. So there is a break point midway to the north of the parcel. And remind me, Montana, the drive.
Lindner Court there is big for the top of the hill.
Yep.
So we're challenged as we move towards, say, the Lindner Court to Shakespeare Pond, that gravity. So you can see the development constraint there is the limit at which we can still gravity for the subdivision.
So the
No.
black marks, that is the total, is that the 88 I see in the report, the 88 acres in the report, or?
No, that is a development possible vision only.
Okay.
The land does extend to the north of that, and that will continue in an agricultural setting.
Sorry, so just to be clear, what's the 88 mentioned in the, or sorry, the 35.8 hectares, what is that? Where is that on the map? Where is that?
That is the total Necto parcel as an assessment parcel. That would be the full assessment parcel.
And the OPA will be asking for that to be put into either.
No, it is only going to be with a fraction or portion of that land, again, south, matching Lindner Court to the west, in about that to the east, for not having that detail right depicted on a map.
And that number is, oh, I saw it in here somewhere. How many hectares is that one?
It's on that land schedule there. You can zoom in, but the future development is 13.5 that you see on the plan.
Okay,
Just in the key legend, it breaks it down.
Right to the top of that map, yes, thank you. You're right there.
oh, okay. So that, the crosshatch area is the 8 hectares. The reason I'm asking it wasn't clear, sorry.
So yeah,
The 21, okay.
Yeah.
All right. And it also mentions a commercial development, which kind of excites a lot of people, including myself. So the first phase, it looks like it's going to be residential. When would the commercial come? Would it be imminent, or?
We'd like to see it imminent, and I guess what we recognize, Councillor, is that we're with some factors of sanitary that we have to face as well, and there's some work that we need to integrate with the staff and engineering to make sure that we're, I think, respectful of what the services are available initially along the highway frontage to the east side of the property more is a spot that we've depicted for commercial.
Okay, thank you. So, we've got, affordable housing mentioned in there. Does anybody have a number for that? Does anybody have a price point for what affordable housing is? I know what stuff's selling for that's smaller in stature, but, do you guys have that data available now for what the affordable housing for older and younger people is gonna be in a development like this?
I don't have a calculation here exactly, depending on whether it's rental or it's an own stock item, because there's an integration of some rental possibility here.
Is there an industry number?
Sorry, what's more?
Is there an industry number or something that you can give that
Industry
you would,
number?
you would expect it to be at, the price point?
I guess where it's not, it's the attainable housing aspect, affordable, is what I'll say. I don't have a definition here before you tonight. Is that something important? We can certainly get back to you. Absolutely. Caroline, and we appreciate the council's indulgence with me tonight. I am sometimes in front of council, but Caroline Baker as our planner, we rely on heavily, and we certainly have more calculation with her as well.
No, thank you. And I also saw something in here that was mentioned by somebody else, and it's a 15-minute neighborhood. So I looked in the provincial policy planning statement to PPS, and then I looked in the county OP. I didn't see any reference to that being any requirement or anything in there. Could I get an idea of what that means, or in this context of this development? 15, I believe it's on page 3 of your Baker report, last paragraph.
So this is so that comment is in connection to the commercial uses to support the 15 minute. So we're with a 15-minute draw point from the commercial uses, and that's tied to commercial use.
So is with the concept of a 15-minute neighborhood, what would that be? I'm not familiar with it.
I think the term is we're draw point.
Over here,
So,
way over
so
my pay grade.
we're customer support, maybe with people who come there for customer.
So amenities such as,
Amenities within 15 minutes, I think is where we're going with that, but there's commercial support for the residential within 15 minutes.
potential for commercial uses to support 15-minute neighborhoods. So would that immediate neighborhood be the 15-minute neighborhood, or just anybody who can drive or walk within 15
It would
minutes?
be true either way, certainly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll see if anybody else has anything, but that's good. Thank you very much.
Okay, other questions, Bob?
So I realize you're here as a courtesy, and I don't expect that you have answers for all the questions, but perhaps I'll provide a little feedback, something to take away. You mentioned, to your word, attractive. I guess I would say to you, I see this as a commuter subdivision. No one is going to be living in Shakespeare and working. Right? You're moving to the east. So the point is, in your sketch, and I realize it's just a sketch, but none of this subdivision makes any sense to leave Linton Court, Northfield Drive, to Miller Ave. The only way this subdivision works for me is if there's access on line 34. Suggest that you're going to have 114 residences leads through an existing poorly designed subdivision and a poor access on Road 107. Doesn't make any sense to any planner at all. So unless there's an access on line 34, and I know there should be for the other phases, but this sketch is garbage to me. You said that attractive. So what does that leave for the residents of Shakespeare? Are you making a contribution to the local public school? Are you supporting the athletic association, or the Optimist Club, or the Optimists Club, or the volunteer fire department? What's in this for the community? Because I, again, see this as community support, right? Obviously, there should be some stormwater management in this diagram as a park, but what does it look like? Is it just a grass field, or are you planting trees for shade for the kids to play in, or are you paving it as a basketball court? What are you doing with it? Again, I realize it's preliminary, but I'm going to leave you my feedback. That's why you're here, right? The affordability, attainable part, I guess that should be in every subdivision? How many homes are gonna be 1.5 million and how many are gonna be like that? What's the breaking point? How many square footage are some of the townhomes and what's the price point? I think Andrew was getting at what is affordable for someone in this community. You're coming in with, in my view, some numbers. That's for engineers and accountants. The human aspect is what you're leaving for us in the community. And that's the contribution I would expect that you're prepared to make towards the existing infrastructure for the athletic or whatever. Obviously, you're well aware that this is a need for the province for housing, but again, this livable community has to have a variety of housing types. And I think if you were in Shakespeare and asking people what they wanted, and they would say, I think desire would be for some young people to purchase a home or start a home, and then older people to downsize and have something with amenities close to what they need. I don't see any of that here. We're early days, but then it would be nice to grasp the whole concept and let the other phases off. I believe from another set of information from 2023 that this essentially was 362. So to come tonight and say, here's phase one, I'd really like to see what the other phases look like as well. And then that leads to the bigger question of we just fully serviced here in Shakespeare 2009, and now we're going to rip up some streets for this development. That's not going to go over very well. And again, I'd like to see some of that information, how that's going to be. I'm not an engineer, so I don't really know or care of the slopes and how it goes, but it's important to tell the people of Shakespeare what you're going to do with the campus. Again, I think we are well aware the province could just say yes to this without our input, but I hope that you would seriously consider hosting something in the community, tell them what you're going to do, how you're going to do it, and that you're prepared to work with them, not that you're just coming in here to make as much money. I'll leave it at that. I don't expect any answers tonight, but I do hope that you seriously consider a contribution to the community rather than just saying, oh, we're going to make this 15-minute community with some commercial. What is that, and what does this look like? So from what I have tonight, I just see a few homes, few townhomes, but I have no other information to know if I'd be prepared to support this or even consider supporting. And again, I guess first point is the access to land 34. That seems to be something that is the most important. I'm sure you can work with the MTO and figure that out. But this Lintner Court, Northfield Drive, and Miller Ave, that's not going to work. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, other questions, Hugh?
Not maybe particularly a question, but I would have a hard time supporting development, and I understand people need houses, things like that. To have the farmland turned into houses when we already have land in Shakespeare that's not developed yet. That's a big hill for me to climb. And 15-minute cities, anything I've read about them, not really too thrilled with. I'm just giving you that.
Thank you.
Okay, anyone else? No? Okay, well, thank you very much for your presentation. We appreciate you coming and giving us the information, and I think council has provided some feedback, so it's going to take it from there. So thanks again for coming.
Thank you for listening. Thank you.
Free time.
Okay, and council, we have a motion that the Township of Perth East Council receive the delegation from Don Young, Trident Group Limited, and Montana Wilson Grit Engineering, Inc., relating to a proposed residential development 2148 and 2160, line 34, Shakespeare, Township of Perth East, for information. Moved by Amanda, second by Hugh. All in favor? Carried. Okay, next on our agenda is other presentations. We do not have any. We do not have any delegations. Now we move to public meetings and public hearings. We do not have a public meeting, but we do have a public hearing and a committee of adjustment. And the first one is for application minor variance submitted by Nathan Holst and Nicole Ivory. So council will now temporarily adjourn to sit as a committee of adjustment pursuant to section 45 of the Planning Act. A public hearing was held on April the 8th, 2025 to review an application affecting property currently owned by Nathan Holst and Nicole Ivory and described as Plan 333, Part Lot 4, Part Lot 5, RP 44R4651, Part 1, Southeast Hope Ward, 2217, Line 34, Shakespeare. I will now call on our planner, Jeff Bannon, to present the planning report and recommendations. So welcome, Jeff.
So minor variance application MB505-2025 was submitted by Nathan Holst and Nicole Ivory for the property at 2217 line 34. Property is designated as serviced urban area, commercial in the official plan, and zoned as commercial C1-8 in the Perth East zoning bylaw. The owners have requested a reduction in the minimum interior side yard setback from 3 meters to 1.3 meters along the east lot line, and from 3 meters to 1.31 meters along the west property line for accessory dwellings, and a reduction in the minimum rear yard depth from 7.5 meters to 1.11 meters. Previous request to increase the maximum accessory building lot coverage is no longer required due to changes, recent changes to the Perth East zoning bylaw. County official plan outlines the existing residential buildings and uses are recognized as being permitted in the commercial designation. Expansion of those buildings for residential purposes shall be permitted in accordance with zoning requirements, and the subject lands currently have an established residential legal use. The applicant is requesting relief from the minimum interior side yard width to both the easterly and westerly lot lines, and from the minimum rear yard depth for the 2 accessory structures. Interior side yard and rear yard width requirements are intended to ensure that sufficient space is being maintained on private property for grading and drainage and private amenity space while minimizing impacts on adjacent properties. Minor variances are considered desirable as the location of the existing accessory structures maintain an adequate amount of space to accommodate rear yard access and proper grading and drainage. The requested relief does not negatively impact surrounding properties as the structures remain secondary in nature to the primary residence. Variances requested maintain the intent of the zoning bylaw, ensuring proper drainage, and the structures are accessory to that main residential use. No comments or concerns have been received from the public. MTO has provided a response on March 28th of 2025 that stated that they have no concerns with the proposed variances and that an MTO permit is required before any construction is to begin. The applicant has provided an MTO response from March 8th of 2024, stating that a permit is not required. So the application for minor variances do conform to the official plan policies and staff's opinion and maintains the general intent, purpose of the official plan and the zoning bylaw. Variances are minor and desirable for the use of the land, and as a result, the variances are being recommended for approval tonight. Answer questions.
Okay, thanks, Jeff. Are there any questions from committee members? Seeing none, the committee will now consider a motion regarding the application. And the motion is that the Township of Perth East Committee of Adjustment approve application file D13-A05-2025-PE submitted by Nathan Holst and Nicole Ivory for land described as Plan 333, Part Lot 4, Part Lot 5, Registered Plan 44R4651, Part 1, municipally known as 2217, line 34, as it relates to, number 1, relief from section 5.1.3 to reduce this minimum interior side yard width from 3 meters to 1.13 meters on the easterly lot line. Number 2, relief from section 5.1.3 to reduce the minimum interior side yard width from 3 meters to 1.31 meters on the westerly lot line. And number 3, relief from section 10.2.6 to reduce the minimum rear yard depth from 7.5 meters to 1.11 meters to the following condition, and that condition is that the owners obtain the necessary building permit within 2 years of the approval of the minor variance. I need a mover and a seconder. Moved by Hugh, second by Bob. All in favor? Carried. Okay, now we'll go to our second meeting, and I declare this public hearing open. This public hearing is being held to consider an application affecting property currently owned by Allison Horse and described as Concession 3, West Part Lot 45, Northeast Hope Ward. The purpose of this hearing is to give the committee and the public an opportunity to hear all interested persons with respect to the proposed application and receive their input, and for the committee to make a decision on the application. All persons attending this hearing will be given an opportunity to be heard or make a presentation. Committee members may ask questions for the purposes of clarifying the application, but are asked to withhold comments on this application until all present have been given an opportunity to be heard. Any person who wishes to receive written notice of the decision made by the Committee of Adjustment is asked for their to email their name and mailing address to the Secretary Treasurer at this time. An appeal to the Ontario Land Tribunal objecting to the decision made at this hearing may be e-filed via the OLT e-file service by the applicant. The municipality, the ministry, or prescribed utility providers with the Secretary Treasurer no later than May 26, 2025. No written notice except as previously noted will be given unless requested at this time. I will now call on our planner, Jeff, to present the planning report and recommendations. So Jeff, the floor is yours.
Thank you. So the minor variance application MV6-2025 was submitted as mentioned by Allison Horse for the property immediately to the north of 4335 Perth Road 119. Subject lands are approximately 0.22 hectares in size and are occupied with a single detached dwelling and an accessory structure. The purpose of the application is to allow for the existing accessory structure to remain in place after the lot addition to the adjacent property at 4341 Perth Road 119. Lot addition is intended to add lands to the adjacent property to provide for easier access to an existing shed, to control water on each property, and to improve the functionality of both of those lots. The owners are requesting the relief to reduce the minimum accessory building interior side yard width in an agricultural zone on a lot less than 1 hectare from 3 meters down to 1.5 meters. Properties designated as agriculture in the official plan. Lands are designated as agricultural and are intended to be used and developed for farming uses of all types. Existing residential use has already been established on the subject lands, and the proposed minor variances will allow for the existing accessory building to remain in place after the consent application has been finalized. The building is accessory to an existing non-farm residential dwelling, and the existing location does not negatively impact the adjacent non-farm residential property. As a result, the minor variance meets the intent of the official plan. Property is zoned as agricultural in the zoning bylaw, which permits a range of agricultural uses, including farm uses, secondary farm occupations, and existing non-farm residential uses. Section 5.13 sets out requirements for accessory buildings on properties. An accessory building on a lot area less than 1 hectare, which does not include livestock farms, is permitted with a minimum interior side yard setback of 3 meters. Intent of the minimum side yard setback is to provide for adequate setback from the adjacent properties, which allows for proper grading and drainage and room for maintenance of those structures. The existing location of the accessory building and the 1.5 meter setback still provides for adequate space for proper maintenance of the structure and allows for drainage on the property. Existing non-farm residential use is separated from the accessory building by a driveway and an outdoor amenity space, and the requested variance will not have a negative impact on the neighboring lands. The applicant is able to meet all other zoning requirements with the proposed lot severance. The interior side yard setback width to the accessory building still provides for sufficient land to maintain the structure, and the variance is considered to be minor in nature. The accessory building also contributes to maintaining a suitable street state. No comments or concerns have been received from the public. Following the completion of the report, we did get notice from the Upper Thames River Conservation Authority today, and they've stated that they have no objections to the minor variance requests. As a result, we feel that the variances are minor in nature and desirable for the use of the land, and we would recommend approval of minor variances tonight.
Okay, thanks, Jeff. Is there anyone present who wishes to make a presentation or speak in opposition of the application? Seeing no one. Is there anyone present who wishes to make a presentation or speak in support of the application other than the applicant or the applicant's agent? Okay, if you would like to come up to the desk, please. I need your name and your address for our records.
Good evening, Phil Anwender, 4352 First County Road 119. We live right across from the applicant, and we fully support this and carry on. I'm curious why this didn't happen when you did, I think you did a lot severance a couple of months ago, Rhonda.
Yes, we did. This is a different application.
I understand that. I was just curious why it didn't happen all at once, but yeah, we've supported their initial lot adjustment, and we support this one too. Okay, thank
Okay.
you.
Thanks, Phil. Does the applicant or the applicant's agent wish to make a presentation or speak in respect to the application? No. Are there questions from the committee members? No questions. The committee will now consider a motion regarding the application. The motion is that the Township of Perth East Committee of Adjustment approve application file D13-A06-2025-PE submitted by Allison Horst for land described as Part 45 Concession 3 Northeast Hope Ward, Township of Perth East as relates to number 1, relief from section 5.1.3 to reduce the minimum accessory building interior side yard width in an agricultural zone on a lot less than 1 hectare from 3 meters to 1.5 meters, subject to the following conditions. And that condition is that the owner obtain the necessary building permit within 2 years of the approval of the minor variance. I need a mover and a seconder. Moved by Andrew, second by Amanda. All in favor? Carried. I declare this public hearing closed. Okay, next on our agenda under reports, under planning and development, we have an application for consent. And Jeff, I will let you have the floor.
Thank you. So the next application is consent application B13-25. It was submitted by Catherine Ritzma of Monteith Ritzma Phillips Professional Corporation on behalf of Bruce Schmidt for the lands municipally known as 2980 Line 20. The applicant has provided a sketch that includes only the lands that are needed to accommodate the residential use. The lands to be severed include the existing residential dwelling, the garage, the shed, and services that include an easement for hydro, a septic bed, and a well. The lands contain an adequate area to allow for the future expansion of the existing septic bed, and the proposed residential lot is minimal in size. The lands are designated as agricultural in the official plan. That designation tends to ensure prime agricultural lands are protected and preserved. Planning staff are satisfied that the subject land meets the above noted requirements, and that include that the residential lot is limited in size. The subject lands also contain a residence that is habitable and meets the 10-year minimum requirement. The applicant will be required to obtain a zoning bylaw amendment as a condition of the proposed severance. Purchaser of the retained lands has demonstrated that they own a majority share of the subject lands and that they own another farm that contains a residence and an agricultural designation. Subject lands contain a residence that is habitable and meets that minimum 10-year requirement. The lands are zoned as agricultural A. There are no existing livestock facilities on the lands, and the surplus residential dwelling requires that the severed lands need to conform to the zoning bylaw, which will be an A-1 zone, and the lands to be retained will also have to go through that rezoning application in order to prohibit any new permanent residential dwellings, which results in an A-5 zone. Planning staff are also suggesting the removal of condition number 2 in the report, which would require a payment of parkland dedication for the surplus farm dwelling severance. This condition is not required for a surplus farm dwelling severance and shouldn't have been included in the report. Public notice was provided to the neighboring property owners on April 10th. No comments or concern have been brought forward by the public or other public agencies. Planning staff are supportive of the proposed severance, subject to the revised conditions of the consent approval being fulfilled, and I'm available to answer any questions.
Okay, thanks, Jeff. Are there questions of the reports? No questions? Okay, we have a motion that the Township of Perth East Council advise the Land Division Committee or its delegated authority that the Township of Perth East supports application file D10-B13-2025-PE submitted by Catherine Ritzma of Monteith Ritzma Phillips Professional Corporation for lands described as Part Lot 39, Concession 8, Southeast Hope Ward, Township of Perth East, subject to the following conditions. And this is application B13-2025, and there are, I believe, 5 conditions for the township. Yep, because that one's going to come out. Okay, and I'll give you the abbreviated version. So that a letter is provided to the clerk of the Township of Perth East advising that Secretary Treasurer of the Land Division Committee that all requirements for the township financial services and otherwise have been completed. The second one, that confirmation be received from the township that a portion of the schedule for the municipal drains in the area are reviewed and updated. The third one, confirmation be received that an amendment to the township's implementing zoning bylaw has been adopted to zone the proposed severed lot to permit only a dwelling and accessory uses, buildings and structures, and to zone the retained farm lot to prohibit any new permanent dwellings. The fourth one is that the severed and retained lots have been assigned separate municipal addresses and signs. The fifth one is the confirmation be received from the township that the road access to the severed and retained parcels are to the satisfaction. I think that's the same one I just read. Okay. And then the Perth County conditions, we have that the first one is that confirmation be received from a solicitor that the certificate of the official be scanned and attached to the electronic registration for the transfer. The second one, that the Land Division Committee be provided with a description that is consistent with the application and equal to that required for registration of the deed or the transfer. And the third one, that confirmation be received that the property owner has entered into an agreement with the County of Perth to prohibit any new permanent residential dwellings on the retained farm lots. We have a mover and a seconder, moved by Hugh, second by Amanda. All in favor? Carried. Don't run away. So, if with council's permission, I'd like to move 9.2 from the correspondence up now when Jeff is still here. So if you have any questions to we do with the planning, Jeff can maybe help us out and answer them. So is that okay with council? Okay, so we're going to switch to 9.2, the correspondence from Arcadis Services regarding a peer review of the Stephenville Municipal Class EA Phase Report for the Township of Perth East and Perth South. So is there any questions on this report? Hugh?
Just that Perth East was included on this. I think they studied Perth East side of the road plus Perth South side of the road, or just Perth South?
Through the mayor, when they were doing the Class EA study, they were looking at the community as a whole and whether or not the entire settlement area in Stephenville needed to be on municipal services. I believe the intention is right now that they are only looking to do connections, an emergency connection out to Boyce Street for water connections, but that there is no intention to service the entire community. So it's still open right now for public input because it's through that second phase, or it's moving through the second phase of the Class EA. And as part of that public input in the Class EA, these are the comments that have come forward from Get Concerned Stephenville, and they've asked us to provide a response. When we bring forward a report to a future meeting at Township of Perth South and then to County Council, we'll be addressing some of the points that have been raised through the correspondence that is before you tonight.
Okay. If they'll just do the well, I assume it's a well they're doing then. Obviously water doesn't go on political boundaries. If people on the Perth east side of the road, if this well somewhere would affect their wells, that they have some degree of recourse then?
Through the mayor. So right now it's going through that Class EA process where they have an opportunity to be heard. If they have concerns relating to their well waters on the north side of that main highway, by all means, they should be involved in that process. I think what's being proposed is they're telling us that those well areas are not going to be affected. But that's something that the engineer should be providing that evidence and professional opinion on instead of myself. I'm waiting to see what the findings are of that Class EA and that phase 2 before we bring a report back with any sort of recommendation on the official plan amendment or the plan of subdivision.
Okay, and for now, you should at least put in a concern, so if in the future you do have a problem, you feel that you put your concern in that done.
Through the mayor, I don't see any harm in if they have concerns, any residents have concerns, to express those concerns so that it is on record. We're being told that there is no concern with the well water, especially on the north side of the highway. But if that's a concern of residents, then they should reach out and make sure that their voices are heard through that process.
Other questions, Andrew?
Thank you, Mary. What stage are they at with the Class EA? You know, sometimes it gets kind of hard to understand for the public and myself included. Do you know what stage they're at, Planner Bannon? Or?
Yeah, through the mayor, they're currently in the second phase of the Class EA, which involves the public consultation. So they've gone through the process. They've identified their preferred method of dealing with servicing to the new subdivision development. They're putting that forward and they're getting feedback from residents in the area. So that is part of the reason why we're not moving forward with the reports. We want to see what that feedback is going to entail and see what the recommendation is through that Class E process after the feedback has been received.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions, Bob?
Given that there's issue with potential firefighting, is that a concern that we would be looking into? It's noted in the report.
Okay, Mike?
Yeah, I just wanted to, when the notice came out as it relates to the proposal, Perth East submitted comments at that time, which we anticipate will be addressed. One of them was around the fire service piece. The other was as it related to wells. I can certainly share that with council, but certainly any of the concerns that we've heard from Perth East residents were submitted as comments from the township of Perth East. One of them was around the well. If a new well is introduced, we would anticipate that it's located so that source protection areas surrounding the well does not negatively impact Perth East property owners in their current and future enjoyment of the properties, including future new building and expansion and addition opportunities. We tried to capture as much of our concerns. We also noted fire service. The proposal would add significant number of new residential units, and we understand that apartments are part of the proposal. These factors may change fire service and equipment requirements for the area. We have been proactive, I would say, as a township, drawing attention through the process as it relates to concerns that we're hearing from Perth East residents on the road. Recreation, we've also identified if this number of people are joining the community of Sevierville through this subdivision. Yeah, I think there needs to be consideration. We had a previous conversation about a contribution to Sevierville Athletic, the community center there. That's the only real recreation facility that exists in Sevierville, and if we're adding 400 new residents or whatever the number is, I'm just making that number up, so please don't quote me. There needs to be consideration around the impact of recreation, and that shouldn't be the burden on purpose. So the developer is part of it as well. So we have been proactive, I would say, from a township standpoint, from a staff standpoint, and listening to our residents and feedback that I'm hearing from our counselors, making sure that these items are part of the consideration. A lot of these items aren't necessarily addressed through the EA, but they are addressed through the OPA, ZBA, and Plymouth subdivision. So I know we want all the answers, clearly, that's, what we're in the business of. Some of these answers will come, assuming that this application goes forward. And again, you're not the approval authority. County has a role to play, PERSIF has a role to play, and the EA is approved by the ministry. So lots of other factors that these developers are going to have to address. But certainly, I don't want it to be seen or stated that we are not showing interest and are not trying to make sure that our concerns representing purpose are not being presented as part of the process there.
Hey, Amanda?
I more so just have a couple comments for those who might be listening, and staff can feel free to weigh in to clarify any of my comments or add to it. But just a friendly reminder, so Jeff had prepared a report last February, at which time council did pass a resolution that we directed staff to be involved in the environmental assessment process and planning applications, because we were hearing concerns from the community. So I do want to reiterate and let people know, the public that might be listening tonight, that this is something the staff have been monitoring. We are a commenting agent. We are not the approval. And I think that's really important to note. Some people have the impression that we are going to weigh in and stop it or whatever, but that is for South and the county's decision, not for the East. I know that fire committee has had some conversations about what you had brought up, Bob, when this first sort of flared up. I know Bill had some really good comments as well. So I don't know if Bill wanted to add to that, but I just, again, in terms of reassuring the public in terms of our involvement and our monitoring in this situation, I think is really important. I don't know, Bill, not to put you on the spot, but I don't know if you had anything else you wanted to add, because I think we had some really good discussions. It was some time ago on fire committee, which I know a few others on council here present sit on, but I don't know if you wanted to share anything in addition to that.
Sure. It's still really early in the process to say what the needs of the community would be as far as fire protection, but people need to understand that there's a lot that goes into building construction, the planning of buildings, and the fire protection that goes into those buildings. So until we actually see what their proposal is, then we would be able to provide a better plan as far as fire protection. But it simply doesn't always fall back to number of fire trucks, size of fire trucks. It comes down to construction materials, density, things like that.
And basically there's a risk assessment that is done. There's a risk assessment that is done at that time. Because I know that there's a whole process regarding that, and we learned a little bit about that during fire committee.
Yes, so both Perth South and Perth East recently completed their community risk assessment that's mandated by the province. This subdivision, when it gets to that point, would have to have that, the CRA would have to be updated with that information, and then risks would be identified, and how we would deal with them would also be identified in the assessment.
Okay, any other questions? If not, we do have a motion that the Council of the Township of Perth East receive the correspondence from Arcadis Professional Services Canada Inc. regarding a peer review of the Steubenville Municipal Class EA Phase 1/2 report for the Township of Perth East and Perth South for information. Moved by Amanda, second by Bob. All in favor? Carried. Thanks, Jeff, for staying.
Yep, thank you.
Okay, now we're down to our other reports. We have nothing from the CAO, nothing from the clerk, nothing from finance, Public Works. Justin's a lucky one tonight. We have 3 reports. The first one is the maintenance gravel crushing. So Justin, welcome, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mayor Agates. Good evening, Council. So as stated, the first report covers the tender results for our annual gravel crushing contract at the Township Gravel Pit. Staff accepted tenders for a 2-week period, receiving 6 submissions. The lowest submission was from Ontario Custom Aggregates from West Montrose, Ontario. They have worked for the township in the past and done a fine job as recently as 2019. Staff feel confident that they can execute this contract just fine. And we are looking for council's support in awarding the contract to Ontario Custom Aggregates. If there's any questions, I'll do my best to answer them.
Okay, thank you. Questions of the report? No questions. We have a motion that Council of the Township of Perth East receive the report prepared by the Manager of Public Works dated May 6, 2025, entitled Tender Results, PW-2025-04, Maintenance Gravel Crushing, PUB-2025-12, for information, and further that Council award the tender of PW-2025-04 for the gravel crushing services to Ontario Custom Aggregates Limited to crush and stockpile granular material in accordance with the contract documents for the tendered price of $123,200 exclusive of HST. Moved by Andrew, second by Amanda. All in favor? Carried. And the next report is on maintenance gravel load and supply. Justin?
Thanks again, Mayor Agates. Second report, tender results for our load and apply, which is the loading and application of our maintenance gravel program each year. Again, staff accepted tenders for a 2-week period. We received 3 submissions. Lowest received was from Earl and William Blaine Trucking out of Lucan. They have completed the application for several years for the township, as recently as last year. We have, again, no issues with E&W Blaine completing the work and looking for council's support in awarding this contract. Any questions, I can answer them.
Okay, thank you. Questions of the report? Being no questions, we have a motion that Council of the Township of Perth East receive the report prepared by the Manager of Public Works dated May 6, 2025, entitled Tender Result, PW-2025-05, Maintenance Gravel Load and Apply, PUB-2025-13, for information, and further that Council award the tender PW-2025-05, Maintenance Gravel Load and Apply to E&W Blaine Trucking for the tendered price of $200,000 exclusive of HST. Moved by Bob, second by Hugh. All in favor? Carried. And the third one is cooperative procurement. Justin?
Thank you, Mayor Agates. So the final report of the night is for a cooperative procurement with Perth County for the reconstruction of our Road 130. That is from Highway 8 to Perth Line 36. It's a 2-kilometer stretch of roadway. It involves recycling of the existing surface and completing a hot mix overlay. Each year we do our best to meet with county staff and the lower tiers to try and see if there's any projects in close proximity of one another that we can get in on a joint tender with and try and get as best pricing as we can. It was noted this year that Perth County was going to be doing some work on their section of Road 130 south of Sebringville. So we decided to participate in that cooperative procurement. County staff accepted tenders for this procurement for a 2-week period. They received 7 submissions. The lowest tender was from GIP Paving outside of Stratford for $2.884 million. Perth East portion of that work is worth $231,180. County staff is looking at seeking approval to award this contract at their May 15th meeting, and we would need our council support for them to do that. If there's any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Okay, thank you. Questions of the report? No, we have a motion that Council of the Township of Perth East receive the report prepared by the Manager of Public Works dated May 6, 2025, entitled Cooperative Procurement County of Perth Tender Number 2025-031-01 Results PUB-2025-14 for information, and further that Council support the County of Perth in awarding tender 2025-031-01 to GIP Paving, Inc. for the reconstruction of Road 130 between Line 34 and Perth Line 36. We need a mover and a seconder. Moved by Amanda, second by Hugh. All in favor? Carried. Thanks, Justin. Okay, we have no reports from building. Under Parks, Recreation, and Community Services, we have the well extension installation at Morningdale Park. So Becky, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mayor Rhonda. The report in front of you requests a budget amendment for replacement of the existing water pump at the Morningdale Park and an extension to the well system. When the park was being opened up, found that the pump had failed. In order to replace the pump, the well itself has to be brought up to code, which it must have a minimum of 18 inches above grade. So in order to do that, we've had a quote prepared, or we've had the work looked at by Gable Electric Plumbing, and at a cost of $55.50 plus tax, and that would be recommended to come from the Parkland reserves.
Okay, questions of the report? No questions. We have a motion that Council of the Township of Perth East receive the well extension installation at Morningdale Park, PRCS-2025-06, report prepared by the Manager of Parks, Recreation, and Community Services dated May 6, 2025, entitled Well Extension Installation at Morningdale Park for information, and that Council authorize staff to proceed with the engagement of Gable Electric / Plumbing for the replacement of the water pump and extension of the well system at Morningdale Park at a cost of approximately $5,550 plus non-refundable HST, and that an adjustment be made to the 2025 budget with the funds to be used from the Parkland Reserve Fund. Need a mover and a seconder. Moved by Andrew, second by Bob. All in favor? Thanks, Becky. Now we're moving to fire. We have a request for a budget amendment for a boiler. Bill, the floor is yours.
Great. Thanks, Mayor and Council. The report I have before you tonight is for a budget amendment to replace the boiler at the Milverton Fire Station. As outlined in the report, there was a malfunctioning gas valve over the winter season, which resulted in some significant damage to the existing boiler. Our HVAC contractor assessed it and is recommending a full replacement of the unit based on the damage. The quoted cost is $7,920 plus a non-refundable portion of the HST. The contractor has also indicated that with your approval, we would be able to have that work completed by the end of the month. Gladly answer any questions.
Okay, questions of the report? Hugh?
Just that Gable got both of these, and I'm familiar with the work they do, working at. But if they weren't able to provide that service, we have a second company that we could go to, like a backup company, which
Yes, we would source out another contractor that could do it. Gables performs the semi-annual inspections on the HVAC system at the fire station. But yeah, if they weren't available, we would certainly see if we could find somebody else. I don't know. I would assume that any qualified HVAC technician company would be able to do that work.
Okay, any other questions? If not, we have a motion that Council of the Township of Perth East receive the report prepared by the Manager of Fire Services / Fire Chief dated May 6, 2025, entitled Request for Budget Amendment, Boiler Replacement for Milverton Fire Station, FIR-2025-06 for information, and further that Council approve a capital budget amendment in the amount of $7,920 non-refundable HST for the supply and installation by Gable Electric / Plumbing of one on-demand hot water boiler for the Milverton Fire Station to be funded from the Building Betterment Reserve. A mover and a seconder, moved by Amanda, second by Hugh. All in favor? Carried. Thanks, Bill. Okay, we're moving to correspondence. We have correspondence from the Milverton Somerset UK District Archive Charity Trustee Secretary. What, council, do you want to send this to the Twinning Committee and see if they have any connections with people that do history? Or what do you want, Hugh? Okay, so we have a motion that Council of the Township of Perth East receive the correspondence from Milverton, Somerset, UK, and District Archive Charity Trustee Secretary for information, and that Council refer the correspondence to the Perth East Twinning Committee. Interest Committee. Okay, moved by, you want to move that, Hugh? Second by Bob? Questions, Bob?
Well, since they asked for other people that would do history societies or whatnot, maybe you just send them to the archives and give them a couple other connections and what they want with it.
Hugh? So procedurally now you want to change your motion? You always put me to a test here. You want to take it back?
No, just add in the archives and any other associated interest groups.
Okay, so you want it to go to the Twinning Committee and the archives? Okay, so we'll refer the correspondence to the Twinning Committee and the Perth County Archives. Okay, all in favor? Carried. Okay, next on the agenda under council and committee reports, you have the meeting log for the month of April, where I was and what I did. Is there any questions on any of that? Nope. Is there any committee reports? Anybody, any of the committees anyone sits on that they wish to give a verbal report on? Nope. So a motion to receive the mayor's meeting log, moved by Amanda, second by Hugh. All in favor? Carried. Okay, we have two bylaws. that are read first, second, third, and final reading. We have bylaw 21-2025 being a bylaw to authorize the sale of land owned by the corporation of the Township of Perth East. And the second bylaw is 110-2025, and that's a Teal municipal drain in Ellis Ward. So we're going to move these first, second, third, and final reading. Moved by Amanda, second by Hugh. All in favor? Carried. Do we have any notice of motions? No? Okay. So under other business, Hugh had asked earlier about the mayor's powers. I'm not sure what you're after. Like last meeting, there was a item in the consent agenda that explained the different duties that the mayor's powers can have. You want that explained further, or what are you after?
There's a few places it's been used. So I watched TVO did a segment on mayors that live on border mayors, I guess. So the mayor of Windsor talked about there was support to build a bus tunnel from Windsor to Detroit, and the mayor used the strong mayoral powers to actually, with everything going on in the US, basically rescind that. And so there's lots of examples where it has been used before, but that's just one example that I heard recently through TVO on a segment. The mayor spoke about that and why they used it in that instance. I think my understanding is that, like, just because you have the powers doesn't mean you use them, right? There's lots, but I don't know if they're common to everybody to know.
I'm hoping there's a webinar or something with more information. I've heard that there's supposed to be. I hope there is. That gives us more information on what it all entails and how it works, and you know, like Mike and I've had a couple conversations, and we have policies set in here, but apparently the mayor can overrule the policies. But you have, every time you do that, you have to do it in writing. You can't just say it's going to happen and it happens. You have to bring it in writing to council, is my understanding of it. Right now, I am business as usual. You know, just for Paula, I am not looking to change the budget process at all. I like what we do. I think it works very, very well. And yeah, I have no intentions right now of doing it. I guess they're there. They gave them to us. What I keep reading, it's about building houses, and we're doing that, right? Like, we're already got subdivisions, so I'm just a little confused what they really want us to do. Maybe there's some municipalities that aren't. I don't know. But, you know, here we seem to be plugging along, and things seem to be working. So yeah. Andrew?
Your Honor, I just confused, and I just want, not confused, but I want to make a comment about this. This is a very American business model for larger centers usually. They do sheriffs, it's a totally different system where it's appointments left, right, and center, and the mayor's the CEO, like the actual CEO of the corporation. And for all the ill will, I guess, it's being leveled at the states, I'm just surprised we're going down this road. So it's a baffling time in Canadian politics right now. I'll say that. So.
Well, I am too. Like, I didn't see this coming. They said they hinted at it at Roma. You know, I don't know. And I don't know who spearheaded it. Somebody obviously did for them to start looking at it. But I know AMO is, I I've read this week that AMO is sending letters off to the government about what their stance is on it, and so, I guess we'll wait and see. Andrew?
Yeah, thanks again. They did have a pre-COVID time. They did have a presenter at one of the AMO, might have been AMO, might have been Roma Ogra when they were combined, and they did have a girl from a university come, and that was her thesis, and present on strong mayor powers. Never went anywhere after that, so that was probably at least 5 years ago, but it's been floating around for a while. Hopefully, maybe they get on the joint and several liability while they're at it. I don't know.
Yeah, with Deputy Mayor Trunkowski from West Perth, he told me they hinted at it at Roma. So, anyway, okay. Any announcements? Oh, sorry. Yep.
Sorry, just before that, I think part of the challenge is that these powers have been, they've been assigned through regulation, so they are in place. They are there. So the challenge now is, and I'm not questioning our mayor's intent. If we want to remain status quo, then there are steps that we are going to have to take as a council and as the mayor to remain the status quo, because otherwise those powers are they're in play. The regulation is passed. And I know it happened kind of out of left field for everybody. We're assigned, and yeah, those powers are in play. So in order, and Ashley's done a lot of research around this, in order for us to kind of remain status quo, which I think is the intent, there are some steps that we're going to take. That would make the authorities to where they were before, whether it's council or
I guess I need to make myself a little clearer. I want to keep going as it is, but I'm not willing to relinquish what I've been given, because I want to see the webinars. I want to see what's all part of it before I say, okay, I'm going to give them up. I don't know if we can give them up.
That's literally what I was about to say. Is like there are several councils and mayors that have said they have no intention of, like, they don't want them. And I think those are more political statements rather than like, this is literally a tool that mayors have, the ones that were listed in the whatever 100 and some odd additional ones, right? So I don't, unless through Ashley's research that there is in fact a process in which, mayors would do that. I mean, that can be shared with council at a later date, but again, just because the mayor has them doesn't mean that they need to use them.
Okay. All right. Any announcements? We don't have a need for a closed session, so we are to our confirmatory bylaw. And it states that the bylaw 22-2025 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council of the Township of Perth East at its regular meeting held on May 6, 2025, be read a first, second, and third time. Moved by Hugh, second by Bob. All in favor? Carried. And the last motion is the night, as that we adjourn at 8:15 p.m. Moved by Amanda, second by Hugh. All in favor? Carried. Thanks, everyone. Enjoy the rest of